We talk so much about AI in various sort of different fields, and we talk about it in music, we talk about it in law, where there have been some issues with people, lawyers, including some who have been disbarred, by the way, using AI, trying to fool judges. Well, it's pretty prevalent, apparently across the entire job market, never mind among professionals, but people actually looking for jobs. And as it turns out, story in the Globe and Mail last week, and that means entry-level jobs, apparently especially. Travis O'Rourke is president of Hayes Canada. They are a recruitment agency and now finding themselves dealing with more and more of these from companies who apparently have given up trying to make this stuff, figured out on their own anyway. And he is on the line. Mr. O'Rourke, thanks for being here this afternoon.
My pleasure.
Pleasure. Yeah, let me begin by asking, when I say it's more prevalent, I mean, it seems to be pernicious. It's like if you don't use AI as a job, applicant, you're kind of behind the eight ball here. I mean, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. If you're not using AI, whether it's on your resume or day to day in your job, you aren't doing a service to yourself or to your career. Like it's how you are using it, I think is really the issue at heart here.
All right, so let's I took a look at this story. It's actually pretty, it's almost scary in a sense, right? First of all, your typical employer putting an ad in somewhere might expect to get, 20 or 30 applications. They're not. They're getting 100 or 120 or 150. How have these are people now perhaps doing business with you, how do they spot AI, or is this a skill they're now developing to be able to weed out applicants?
Yeah, I think there's an important distinction to make here with using AI for a resume. And I'll be honest, you should be using AI for your resume. Now, where the challenge comes into play here is, are you misrepresenting your experience by using AI? And a lot of people, I'll call these the bad actors, what they're doing is just saying, please make my resume look like this job description. And that's where the challenge is coming from, because then a hiring manager does an interview. They think, oh my gosh, I've found the perfect candidate. They show up to work and they can't actually do what they claimed to do. Mm-hmm. That's the bad side.
Right.
And the good side of using AI, absolutely, use it to write your resume. Some people have, awful 2, 3, 4-page resumes. And to be able to go back to the tool and say, please condense this to 2, or please, using my resume, focus on my problem-solving abilities. These are totally fine, completely reasonable ways to use AI. I just think it's the people misrepresenting their experience that are giving the tool or the technology a bad name.
It is interesting, though, because, again, from having read this article, the idea is, if you're not that good at AI and you get it to just take your resume and be very general about it, that's not going to help you, because I imagine your application would get weeded out fairly quickly. At least from what I read, the idea is you need to highlight, if you have a CV, right, previous jobs, and the best idea, of course, would be to do it as accurately as you can, not generally. And I guess recruiters and companies are beginning to pick up on that as well.
I think that's correct, yes. So even within Microsoft Word, Google Docs, at your most basic kind of form, there are plugins, or sometimes it looks like it's going to be default soon, AI detectors right there within those tools. Universities, high schools, they're already using this, where it can say 86% of the content or 86% chance this resume was written by AI. And so that's definitely one way that it's out there.
Right.
But even before it gets to that level, particularly larger organizations or the resume databases at large recruiters, you might not even get in there because it could be blocked by the tool if, in fact, you're using that generalist approach that you're referring to.
Although, to your point, right, if you should be using it just to sort of get going, it's as if you don't, you're not necessarily even going to get beyond that first stage.
Yeah, honestly, I think we're smart people. Humans are smart. You don't need it. We got around for thousands and thousands of years before AI. You know how to look at a resume. You know how to look at a job description, and you know your experience better than that tool ever will. So sit down and apply yourself, because there are still so many ways that you can get blocked just because the technology that's using to detect it doesn't know you really can do that job. All you were trying to do is condense it. So when in doubt, go old school. Heck, show up to the company and hand them the resume face to face. Go real old school.
By the way, that is something that's, it's funny because we used to do that back in the day. Then, now you don't have to. You can just send it in via email or send a PDF to somebody. Are you seeing companies going back to that actual, face-to-face appointments? Because I read about a story here where someone was applying for a job. They were going to have a video call, but the person turned off his camera so the employer couldn't tell if he or she was getting their information from AI, and that wasn't acceptable. So is that what we're starting to see?
Yeah, I mean, there's some horrendous stories out there where employers have been doing the interview thinking they're talking to a human being, and they're not talking to a human being. They're talking to somebody who's actually an AI.
Wow.
Also on those stories, the AI happened to be in North Korea or Russia or another state that doesn't have friendly relationships with the U.S. or Canada, and it was malicious intent in order to get inside of an organization. So particularly, high security jobs or high importance jobs, the face-to-face interview is an absolute must at this point. But there's also little tricks employers are doing to verify this is the person who claims that they should be. So sometimes waving your hand in front of your face, you can detect if the person is real or not, or asking them to stand up and walk out of the room is a little bit. There's lots of little tools. Sometimes you'll say, "Oh, where do you live?" "Oh, I live downtown Montreal." "Hey, what's your favorite restaurant on Sherbrooke?" And asking questions that you have to quickly answer rather than be able to Google everything on the spot. So there's lots of things that employers are doing now to try and get out of these fake interviews.
Wow. It's amazing, as you said at the beginning, that we've now gone all the way from doing a sit-down one-on-one to now having to qualify someone, not for the capability to do on the job, just to make sure they're a real human being. Wow, welcome to 2025.
That's right.
What are you hearing from companies who come to you and say, look, we're trying to fill a job, and typically we would do this on our own, but we're overwhelmed? Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, we do. We certainly do. And I think you go through these cycles where technology becomes so advanced. And I remember when some of the automated emailing would happen and these new services would come out and you'd open your inbox and you'd have 5,000 junk emails after, a week or a month because your email address had been sold to every broker on the planet and spam was hitting you. Now, Google or Microsoft or whoever you get your mail with, they've now separated it into two buckets. And they can tell whether or not this was a computer-generated spam email or if this is actually a normal email. That has nothing to do if they were in your contacts or not. And we're kind of in the same place now where people are being bombarded. It's job applications. There's 200 now. Some of those, you can actually get an AI agent where you say, here's my resume. Go apply to every job that sees fit. And so the number of applications that are coming in now can be 5, 10, 20 times as many as it was before. And the candidate might not even be interested. It was an AI agent approaching them. So for me, sometimes you go back to where you started, go back to your roots. And I wouldn't be surprised if the career fair, if the, going into the high schools to meet those entry-level jobs or going into the colleges to fill those entry-level jobs, doesn't become the most efficient way to do it in the short term here.
Getting back to old school all over again.
That's
pretty
right.
Impressive. It seems to me the irony in this is that, you're getting more and more people using these sorts of tools to try to apply for jobs. Yet we also know that there are, jobs are harder and harder to get, especially for younger people, right? So that seems to be just making the problem even worse.
Yeah, it is. And we could probably spend another hour talking about the challenge with youth employment. It was good to see it move finally in the right direction last month. But I think the competition from job elimination, from new graduates, from new Canadians, all kind of fighting over that same entry-level role, that is as tough as it gets. And I know anyone who's applying to those jobs right now is probably frustrated. I think the advice I'd give you is go old school. Walk into the store, walk into wherever it is that you're applying. Go find the person on LinkedIn. Send them a message that way. Pick up the phone. You can't text all the time. Call who the hire manager is going to be. And then, of course, yes, apply on the website. But you have to kind of take a multi-pronged approach these days if you're going to stand out. I always think, if there's 50 people who can do the job, who's going to get it? I want to give it to the person that wants it the most. And if you're going to try and get a hold of me through 4 different channels, I know this person's a problem solver. I know that they're hungry. I know they're entrepreneurial, and I'll bet on that person every time.
Great advice. Mr. O'Rourke, want to thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Take
Anytime.
good care. Hayes Canada is the organization, by the way. So there you go. Isn't that amazing? We're going to go from new school to old school. Show up. Make it look like you're hungry. Ask for a personal interview. Forget about AI, or at least you can start with that, but then don't count on it to get you that job.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.